Hello and welcome to Japan in 1988. A year packed to the brim with stuff. Wild stuff, weird stuff, controversial, chaotic, surprisingly wholesome, occasionally disastrous, but always entertaining stuff. On this year's menu, we've got colossal construction projects, Tokyo subways smelling a lot nicer, a Japanese high school mystery, roller skating male idols, the birth of a rock and roll juggernaut, the dawn of blast processing, and a whole bunch more where that came from. This, my friend, is Timeline Japan, a series that honestly feels like flipping through a big, slightly faded stack of old Polaroids. If that sounds like your kind of nostalgia trip, then hit like, subscribe, and hey, maybe even swing by my Patreon page if you're in a spending mood. But for now, just settle in right here next to me, and let's look back at some nostalgic Japanese late 1980s memories together. Ikimashō. Let's do this. 1988 starts off with a literal breath of fresh air. On New Year's Day, the Tokyo Metro officially goes completely smoke-free. Under the upbeat slogan Clean Metro, cigarettes are banned across 114 of the city's 127 stations, the only exceptions being a handful of open-air stops. I mean, sure, smoking bans weren't exactly brand new. Before this, you technically couldn't smoke during peak hours. But this was a full 24-hour freeze on Japan's favorite lifespan-shortening pastime, right at the height of salaryman nicotine culture. But the timing wasn't random. The shock of the King's Cross fire in London just months earlier pushed Japanese officials to stop dragging their feet on the issue. And hey, even the hardest-core tobacco loyalists had to admit that subway fires are extremely uncool. So, Tokyo greeted the new year with less cancer sticks, but also with uncharted platforms, cleaner air, and who knows, maybe a few extra years tacked onto countless lives. Clean Metro, more life.
NHK 大河ドラマ武田信玄ついに放送スタート。本編開始直前には見どころや歴史的背景を紹介するミニ番組を放送。天文5年後の信玄武田晴信が初陣を飾る第1回父と子。
If trains weren't your style though, Nissan had a different kind of ride waiting for you just around the corner. On January 18th, they unleashed the Cima, and Japan promptly went crazy over it. Designed as a higher-end answer to the already luxurious Nissan Cedric and Gloria, the Cima instantly became the bubble-era status symbol. Between 1988 and 1991, Nissan sold a mind-blowing 129,000 units of a car designed for the ultra-wealthy. At around 5 million yen, or roughly $100,000 today, this thing was not meant for the average consumer. Yet, the country couldn't get enough of it. Cima Gensho, or Cima phenomenon, became an actual term all on its own. And honestly, the timing of releasing this thing probably couldn't have been much better. For one brief, glittering moment, Japan was overflowing with people who had money to burn. Nissan rolled out the perfect four-wheeled flex to allow them to do just that. By the time the second-gen Cima arrived in 1991, the economy had tanked, sales collapsed, and the magic was gone. But that first-gen Cima, a car that just screamed, hey, look how well we are doing. For now. Then came February 21st, when a quiet little school in Setagaya, Tokyo hosted what would be the weirdest mystery of 1988. The Desk 9 incident. At around 1 AM that night, a group of intruders entered Kinuta Minami Junior High School, tied up the night shift security guard, stuffed him in a bathroom, and escaped before he wriggled himself free a full 3 hours later. Rough shift for the poor guy, but at least they left behind a little surprise for him. Outside the school, he found 447 classroom desks arranged in a gigantic pattern. The number 9. and next to it, 9 chairs forming a perfect little period. 9. Period. The entire country spent 2 months trying to decode the message. Was it a cult, a protest, a prank? Every theory imaginable hit the papers, television, and lunch break discussions. Then finally, on April the 30th, Seijo police finally arrested the culprits, a group of ex-students and acquaintances led by a 22-year-old former troublemaker. His resume: former member of the Tamagawa Black Emperor's motorcycle gang, claims of alien communication, and the ambitious life goal of, and I quote, rising to the top of Japanese society by 1999. Sure thing, dude. So, what did the number 9 mean exactly? Oh boy, I hope you're sitting down for this one. It was the leader's favorite number. Also the number of people involved, but mainly just his favorite number. The whole stunt was, in his own words, just for fun. For this masterpiece of chaos, he got a 1.5 years in prison, his 2 right-hand men got a year each, and everyone else paid 10,000 yen fines. The Mainichi Shimbun later called it the ultimate theatrical crime, while psychologist Nakamura Mareaki interpreted it as a protest against increasing school control. But let's be honest here, it's just a prank, bro. 4 words. Roller skating male idol group. Need I say more? On March 9th, Hikaru Genji released their iconic single Paradise Ginga. Let me tell you about just how massive both the band and this single truly were. It was Hikaru Genji's 3rd #1 single in a row. It sold 339,000 copies first week, which was a record at the time, won a 1988 Japan Record Award, and reached #1 on the annual end-of-the-year charts. Guess who occupied the #2 and 3 spots? That's right, Hikaru Genji. Oh, and the #7 spot also belonged to them. Crazy. So what was the hype all about, you ask? Well, again, this is a roller skating male idol group we are talking about here. Not only was the music catchy as all hell, but these dudes were absolutely killing it on stage too. The roller skating routines quickly became iconic, and pretty much every boy and young man in the late 1980s Japan wanted to be like them. As for the girls, they loved them, of course. Because let's be serious, who can possibly resist the combination of glittery full-body suits and headbands? The wild success of Hikaru Genji, who by the way were named so after a character from the Japanese classic The Tale of Genji, is the perfect visual and sonic representation of late 80s Japan. Glitzy, glamoury, fun, a bit weird, but also so darn charming. Also, can we just bring back roller skating big time? Like, as a society, I'm begging you.
Commercial time です。
黄と黒は勇気の印24時間戦えますリゲイン僕らリゲイン新しいペースに勇気の印遥か世界で戦えますかビジネスマンジャパニーズ環境のビタミンドリンクリゲインが行く
On March 17th, the Big Egg finally cracked open, when Japan's first big indoor baseball stadium opened its doors. The Tokyo Dome, nicknamed the Big Egg or Tokyo Big Egg due to its shape, was absolutely state-of-the-art for its time. Its maximum configuration has space for 57,000 spectators, which are covered from all sorts of pesky elements by the stadium's futuristic, air-supported roof, a cable-enforced fiberglass membrane that is supported by a slight pressurization of the inside of the venue. Alien technology, basically. The dome had big shoes to fill too. It replaced the legendary Korakuen Stadium, where the Yomiuri Giants baseball team of Tokyo had played since 1937. But man, did it deliver. Its inaugural event was of course a Giants game, kicking off a new era in Japanese baseball history. From there, the dome quickly became holy ground, and not just for Japanese baseball or the Hall of Fame tucked inside it. This is where the people of Tokyo came to visit MLB games, boxing matches. Mike Tyson came here not just once but twice, and a frankly ridiculous lineup of music megastars. The Rolling Stones, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Paul McCartney, Beyoncé, Blackpink. If you're famous, the Big Egg is basically your second home. And check this out, the Dome isn't just a standalone stadium, it's part of the Tokyo Dome City Entertainment Complex. Roller coaster? Check. Ferris wheel? Check. A freaking onsen to wash off the stench of defeat after a baseball game? Check. In short, if you walk in here and don't have a good time, you may actually be medically unwell. These days, the Tokyo Dome is far from Japan's biggest stadium, but as far as influence and icon status go, the Big Egg is basically unfrickin' touchable. And because Japan was on such a roll when it came to massive construction projects, less than a month later on April 10th, one of the boldest infrastructure feats in the country's history opened to the public. The Seto Ōhashi, or Great Seto Bridge, is an engineering masterpiece, a chain of bridges stretching across 5 small islands in the Seto Inland Sea to finally connect the main islands of Honshu and Shikoku by land for the very first time ever. This thing wasn't just big, it was astronomical. 10 years of construction, more than 1 trillion yen, a combined length of over 12 kilometers, and oh yeah, it's a double-decker. Cause why the hell not? Cars on top, trains below, because Japan refuses to build anything without trains involved. The Seto Ōhashi's opening ceremony was appropriately fancy too, attended by an assortment of big shots, and even Crown Prince Akihito, all marveling at this gleaming symbol of Japanese engineering prowess. Beyond the bragging rights, the Great Seto Bridge became an essential link between 2 major Japanese islands, and a proud highlight of the Seto Inland Sea's cultural and economic importance. Great bridge indeed. But besides world-class engineering, you know what else is very Japanese? Corruption. Few stories embody late 80s political sleaze quite like the recruit scandal. On June 18th, the Asahi Shimbun dropped an absolute bomb of a scoop. According to their sources, some of the country's most powerful men had been pocketing massive profits through insider trading with Recruit, Japan's biggest human resources tech company. Recruit chairman and founder Ezoe Hiromasa had been handing out pre-IPO shares of Recruit's subsidiary Cosmos to buddies and political connections like party favors. Everyone who got in on the action made out like bandits, with profits of about 66 million yen each. And we're not talking small fry here either, we're talking the chairman of Yomiuri Shimbun and NTT. We're talking politicians from the LDP, Komeito, the Socialists. We're talking Prime Minister Takeda Noboru, and even former Prime Minister Nakasone Yasuhiro. Safe to say, the story blew up instantly. Ezoe was eventually forced to sell off most of his own company. As for Prime Minister Takeda, resigned in disgrace. And 5 years later, when Japan finally saw its first non-LDP prime minister since 1955, everyone knew that the Recruit fallout had played a huge part. Bottom line, a bunch of rich dudes got even richer, then got caught, then paid wildly different levels of consequences. But the political shockwaves, enormous, making the Recruit scandal one of the defining news stories of the bubble era. On September 14th, the Osaka-based Nankai Hawks, one of Japan's oldest and most storied baseball teams, were officially bought by supermarket giant Daiei. In theory, exciting news. In practice, well, people had feelings. By 1988, the Hawks hadn't won a title in 24 years, which kinda hurts, but they were still beloved in Osaka, a city deeply in love with its baseball. As for the Daiei takeover, it wasn't exactly greeted with cheering crowds, especially once fans learned the plan wasn't just a rebrand. The team would be moving from Osaka to here, Fukuoka. Good luck catching a weekend home game after that. Now, you can imagine, Osaka's Hawks fans were absolutely crushed. The city of Fukuoka, meanwhile, had reason to be ecstatic. They hadn't had a team in the league in a full decade. Suddenly, boom, a full pro franchise arrives. As for Daiei, for them, this was textbook corporate strategy. Their presence in the Kyushu region was pretty much zero until then. So what do? Buy a huge baseball franchise, plaster your name all over it, and suddenly everyone in the region knows who you are. Before the relocation became official though, the Hawks still had a handful of games left at Osaka Stadium. Their final home match at Osaka Stadium came on October 15th and ended with a win over the Kintetsu Buffaloes. But the mood was pure heartbreak. Fans cried, players cried. Hell, the stadium itself probably shed a tear too. It was a chapter closed in one of Japan's greatest sports institutions, and Osaka lost one of its own. But hey, at least they still had the Hanshin Tigers. Yikes.
コマーシャルタイムです。
出た出た月が丸い丸いまん丸いあらりゃりゃりゃろありゃりゃりゃこっちは丸いぞ
丸い地球に新登場白鶴丸1250で新発売
Bees absolutely rocks. But you know what else rocks? 16 glorious bits of blast processing power. That's right, on October 29th, 1988, SEGA debuted its Mega Drive home video game console in Japan. SEGA's timing to release this thing? Honestly, a bit questionable. The Mega Drive was completely overshadowed in Japan by the release of frickin' Super Mario Bros. 3 less than a week prior. The system, which was actually SEGA's third attempt at a home console, turned out to be a bit of a dud at first. Despite strong early reviews, domestic sales were lukewarm. Only about 400,000 units shipped in its first year, and across the entire generation, the Mega Drive never came close to matching Nintendo's Famicom or even NEC's PC Engine in Japan. But then, there's the rest of the planet. Europe loved it. North America ate it up like breakfast. Rebranded as a Sega Genesis, packed with a strong launch library, blessed with Sonic the Hedgehog, and armed with a marketing campaign that basically aimed to spit in Nintendo's face, Genesis actually managed to outsell its biggest competitor in the US. At least for a while.
What Nintendo don't.
Now, the Mega Drive/Genesis never won the console generation outright, but it proved Nintendo wasn't invincible and delivered some absolute classics while doing so. Sonic, Phantasy Star, Altered Beast, Golden Axe, Shinobi 3, Comic Zone, Echo the Dolphin. And in Brazil, oh buddy, the Mega Drive wasn't discontinued there until 2023. Yes, you heard that right. 2023. I always knew those Brazilians got good taste. Muito bem. Speaking of Brazil, those guys certainly know their football. But as for Japan in 1988, not so much. On December 4th, Japan's national team appeared in the AFC Asian Cup for the very first time. It was the 9th edition of Asia's premier international football tournament, but Japan still a couple of years away from even professionalizing the sport. On top of that, they sent in what was basically a B team, made up largely of university players. The results? Predictable, yet disappointing at the same time. Japan opened with a 0-0 draw against Iran, then proceeded to score exactly 0 goals across the whole tournament, conceded 6, and finished dead last in their group. Top of their group, South Korea. And you know who else made it out of their group? China. Yep, different times indeed. But hey, Every great underdog story starts at rock bottom, right? This was Japan's calm before the storm. Just a few years later, the J-League launched in Japan and professionalized the sport. That same year, Japan hosted and won the Asian Cup, and the national team began its rapid transformation into a continental and international powerhouse. Today, Japan holds the record for most Asian Cup titles. Its domestic league is the strongest in Asia, and the national team regularly goes toe-to-toe with global heavyweights. In that sense, December of 1988 marks not just Japan's Asian Cup debut, but also the last time their football kinda sucked. Truly nostalgic. And to close out the year, more sports, this time with a bit of airtime. On December 17th, a 16-year-old Kasai Noriaki made his professional ski jumping debut at a World Cup event in Sapporo.
葛西がちょっと空中で左右に体が揺れるようなジャンプに終わってしまい
Nobody knew it back then, but this baby-faced kid from Hokkaido was about to redefine what longevity means in winter sports. Kasai won his first international event the very next month, and then he just kept going. And going. And going. He didn't just collect medals, though he got plenty, including a few Olympic ones. The man collected records. Nearly 600 World Cup starts, the most of any ski jumper ever, the most stars of any athlete across all international ski federation disciplines. He is the oldest World Cup winner at 42 years old. He is the oldest Olympic ski jumping medalist, also at 42. He was the first athlete to compete in 8 Winter Olympics, and as of right now, at 8:53, Kasai is still competing. In fact, as I'm writing this script, Kasai is still trying to make it to the 2026 Winter Olympics, which would make him the first person to ever compete in 9 editions of the world's biggest winter sports event. 35 seasons, 38 years, 1 man, 2 skis, 0 regard for the aging process. Kasai Noriaki isn't just a ski jumper, he's practically a myth. And honestly, I have absolutely no idea how this dude still has functioning legs. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 1988. That's all from me, so guess it's time for me to peace out.
さようなら。
But before I do that, allow me to thank all of my amazing Patreon supporters, including D-Fox, The Hockey Gentleman, Sai Kajo, Khalid Lepta, Xo Yabu, Tricoat, Kevin Hickson, Michael Smith, RK0, Hajime no James, Utku Hussein Kaya, Steve Matsui, Hypanen, Javier Soravia, Midnight Channel, CJ and Mary, Turam, Cats and Soup, Chart B-Man, Ben Herodine, White Gilden, Sierra DC, T-Bird, Metal Mama, Boo Boo Cakes, Ian Farmer, Chris Wallace, JR Horse, Journeyman 351, and Adeye Akono. To you and to everyone else, thank you for lending me your time and tuning in. I guess I'll see you next year. じゃあまたね。